My name is Kesha Gray, and I am 32 years old. I am the person who does all the real work around here. Last night something happened that changed everything. My boss Brenda refused to book my flight for the $15 million deal that I built completely from scratch. She actually smirked at her sister-in-law and told me why would we bring trash. They had no idea that the client's CEO is actually my brother. I just smiled at them and said good luck in the meeting. The air inside the Orion Consulting boardroom tasted stale like burnt coffee mixed with recycled air. It was 10 o'clock at night, and I had just finished my final review of the Axiom Tech proposal. My boss, Brenda Harris, is a woman who wears her success like expensive, suffocating perfume. She is 45 years old and sharp, and she always looks at me like I am something she scraped off her designer heel. Her sister-in-law, Tiffany Shaw, is 28 years old and benefits from a privilege she does not even recognize. She was texting on her phone and barely paying any attention to anything happening in the room. I closed my laptop and the click echoed through the silent Atlanta office. The final analysis is uploaded, I said while trying to keep the exhaustion out of my voice. The projections are solid. The 30-page strategy deck is ready for the meeting. Brenda snapped her briefcase shut with a loud click. Tiffany, the car service, picks us up at 5 o'clock in the morning sharp, she said. Our flight is at 7 o'clock. She said this directly to Tiffany as if I was not even in the room with them. Tiffany finally looked up from her phone with a bright, vapid smile on her face. Perfect, she said. That gives me time to grab a latte before we board. I froze with my hand still on my laptop. 5 o'clock in the morning, flight at 7. I checked my own calendar and my own email. Nothing. No confirmation code. No flight itinerary. Just the meeting reminder for tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning in San Francisco that I had set for myself. A cold feeling started in my stomach. They would not do this. They could not do this. Brenda, I said, while forcing my voice to sound casual, even though my heart had started to pound, you must have forgotten to forward me my flight details. I do not have a ticket in my inbox. There was a beat of silence. It was too long. Brenda and Tiffany exchanged a look. It was not a look of confusion or surprise. It was a look of shared knowledge. It was a smirk. The cold feeling in my stomach turned to ice. I knew exactly what was happening before they even opened their mouth. This was not an oversight. This was a decision. Brenda let out a short, sharp laugh. It was a sound I knew well, a sound that usually came right before she shut down one of my ideas in a meeting. "Oh, Kesha, sweetheart," she said. She did not even sound apologetic, just amused. "You did not really think you were going, did you?" Her words felt like a physical slap. "What do you mean?" I said. "I built the entire proposal. The client's team is expecting me to present the data analysis. I am the lead on this. You were the lead on the preparation," Brenda said while emphasizing the past tense. She waved a dismissive hand and her bracelets clacked together. "You did your part. You crunched the numbers. You made the pretty graphs. That is what you are good at. Now Tiffany and I will go and do the real work. We will close the deal." Tiffany, who is Brenda's sister-in-law, finally chimed in. She leaned against the doorframe while inspecting her perfectly manicured nails, as if this whole conversation was beneath her. "Brenda is right, Kesha," she said with her voice laced with that lazy, privileged drawl. "I mean, let us be realistic. This is a $15 million meeting with the CEO of Axiom Tech. It is not a simple data review." My breath caught in my throat, but she was not finished. She looked at me with a pitying smile playing on her lips. "This meeting requires a certain finesse," she continued. "Malik Thompson is a major player. We need to present the right image. We cannot just bring trash to a table like that. You understand, right? Trash." The word echoed in the empty boardroom. She had called me trash, not just incompetent, not just support staff. Trash, something to be thrown out. I stared at her, then at Brenda, who simply offered a small, complicit shrug as if to say, well, she is not wrong. The humiliation burned hot in my chest. It was a familiar, sickening feeling. This white woman who had her job only because her brother was the CEO was calling me the woman who had built the very ground she was about to walk on trash. And my black female boss, my mentor, as she claimed to be at company town halls, was letting her. She was validating it. I did not cry. I had spent a lifetime learning that my tears meant nothing to people like them. Instead, I just stood there. I let the silence stretch out while watching the amusement on Brenda's face curdle into impatience. My stillness and my refusal to break was not what they expected. When I finally spoke, my voice was dangerously quiet, but it cut through the silence of the $1 million boardroom. Trash, I repeated while tasting the word. You are right, Tiffany. You should not bring trash to a high-level meeting, which is why you should probably stay here. Tiffany's face flushed bright red. How dare you, she said. No, I said while holding up a hand. The authority in my voice surprised even me. It was the voice of someone who had nothing left to lose. It is my turn to talk. Let me tell you what this trash has been doing for the last 6 weeks. I looked directly at Brenda. I have logged 432 hours on this project. That is an average of 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. While Tiffany was in Aspen for that team-building ski trip, I was here rebuilding the entire market analysis because the data she provided was from 2 years ago. Tiffany's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. This $15 million strategy, I continued, while tapping the bound proposal on the table, is mine. I found the client. I initiated the contact. I discovered the internal problem they were having with their current consultants. And I was the one who spent 3 hours on a Zoom call last Thursday walking your sister-in-law, Tiffany, through the fundamentals of Axiom's product line, because she thought their core cloud integration API was, and I quote, some kind of new app for influencers. The color drained from Brenda's face. She knew it was true. So yes, you are right, Brenda, I said. I do not have polish. I do not have time for it. I have been too busy doing both my job and hers. You are walking into that meeting tomorrow with my work, my strategy, and my data. The least you could do is get the terminology right when you are pretending it is yours. Brenda's face, which had been pale with shock, quickly hardened into a mask of cold fury. She did not deny what I said. She did not apologize. She simply went on the attack. That is enough, Kesha, she snapped with her voice low and dangerous. It is that attitude right there. That is precisely why you are an analyst and why you will stay an analyst. This business is not just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It is about relationships. It is about presentation. She gestured toward Tiffany, who was now hiding behind her looking smug. Tiffany has the polish that clients at this level expect to see. She understands the social dynamic. You, Kesha, you are a workhorse. You are brilliant at the grunt work, and we value that, but you are not a front woman. You do not have the finesse. It was the same old story. My work was the grunt work. Tiffany's ability to attend cocktail parties was finesse. So thank you for your contribution to this project, Brenda said while picking up her briefcase. We will take it from here. Your part is done. We will see you on Monday for the debrief, assuming, of course, that your attitude has improved. She did not wait for a response. She just turned and walked toward the elevator. Tiffany followed her like a pampered lapdog. I watched the elevator doors slide shut, sealing Brenda and Tiffany inside. Their faint laughter echoed down the empty corridor. It was the sound of their casual, cruel victory. I stood motionless in the absolute silence of the boardroom. The only sound was the low hum of the HVAC system. The humiliation was a physical thing. It was a heavy weight pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. Trash. The word kept replaying in my mind over and over. She had called me trash. My gaze dropped to the table. I looked at the pristine 30-page proposal that held 6 weeks of my life, 6 weeks of 18-hour days, my eyes fixed on the cover page. I looked at the professional glossy headshot of the man they were flying across the country to impress, Malik Thompson, founder and CEO of Axiom Tech. He stared back at me from the page. He looked confident, sharp, and intensely familiar. I thought about Brenda's dismissal, finesse. I thought about Tiffany's sneering privilege, Polish. I thought about them walking into that meeting tomorrow carrying my work, my analysis, my intellectual property ready to claim it as their own. And then a slow, cold smile spread across my face. It was a smile that did not reach my eyes. It was a smile that felt foreign like a weapon I had not known I possessed. "Good luck in the meeting, Brenda," I whispered to the empty accusing room. "I really truly hope it goes exactly the way you are expecting." I picked up my coat and my hands were shaking just slightly. I was furious, but more than that I was humiliated. I turned to walk out of the boardroom and a voice stopped me. "Kesha's still here burning the midnight oil as usual." I turned around. Stephen Shaw, our CEO, was leaning against the doorframe of his massive corner office. He is a man who wears his 50 years and his wealth with effortless ease. He is also Brenda's husband and Tiffany's older brother. He smiled at me with a warm, disarming smile that he used to charm clients and placate employees. I just nodded because I did not trust my voice. Finishing up Stephen, I said quietly. He walked over, and his expensive shoes were silent on the plush carpet. He leaned casually against the boardroom table, positioning himself as the friendly, approachable boss. "Listen," he said, while his voice lowered into a conspiratorial paternal tone. "I could not help but overhear the tail end of your discussion with Brenda. It was not a discussion," I said with my voice tight. "It was a dismissal." He held up a hand while chuckling softly as if I were a child being overly dramatic. Now, do not be like that," he said. "You have got to understand Brenda. You know how she is. She is tough, but she is just trying to protect you." My head snapped up. That was the last word I expected to hear. "Protect me? How is that protecting me?" I asked. "Absolutely," Stephen said with his face a mask of practiced sincerity. "This Axiom deal is a shark tank." "You are a fantastic analyst, Kesha. The best we have truly. But that front room game, it is brutal. Brenda knows that. She is just trying to shield you from the political fallout if things go south. She is letting you stay focused on what you do best." He patted my shoulder with a gesture that was meant to be comforting, but felt intensely condescending. "Do not take it to heart," he said. "This company runs on your work. You are the engine. Brenda and Tiffany are just, well, they are the shiny paint job. You understand. Do not let this upset you." I pulled my arm away from his light, patronizing touch. "Protect me," I repeated with my voice dangerously low. Stephen Brenda stood right there while her sister-in-law, your sister, called me trash. Is that the new corporate term for protection? Shielding me from success by comparing me to garbage? Stephen actually sighed. It was a long-suffering sound, as if I were the one being unreasonable. He ran a hand through his expensive silver-streaked hair. "Kesha, you are getting emotional," he said. "You are taking this too personally. That is part of the problem." Look, he dropped the friendly boss act and adopted the tone of a man explaining a hard, unfortunate truth. "I am going to be completely frank with you because I genuinely respect your work." I braced myself. The "I respect you" always came before the deepest cut. "This Malik Thompson," he said, "he is not like our usual clients at the country club. He is not old money. He is new money. He is Silicon Valley black tech." He said the words black tech as if it were a foreign species. It was a separate category of human that required special handling. It is a different world, Kesha. It is all about image, about flash, about who you know. It is a different vibe. My stomach clenched. I knew exactly where this was going. And Tiffany, he continued with a note of pride in his voice. She understands that world, her sorority at Duke. She knows those people. She speaks their language. She knows how to navigate the egos. She knows how to handle them. It is a soft skill. It is finesse. It is what gets deals signed, and I stated. It was not a question. He smiled with that paternal smile again, the one that made my skin crawl. "You, Kesha, you are our secret weapon," he said. "You are the brains." You are the numbers, the logic, the work. That is what makes you invaluable here in this office, but the front room, the schmoozing, that is not your strong suit. It is just not who you are. We need Tiffany to be the face for these specific kinds of people. Do you understand what I am saying? Oh, I understood. I understood perfectly. In his world there were two types of black people. There was me, the workhorse, the engine, the backroom analyst, and then there was the new money black tech CEO. A flashy, egotistical type that I supposedly could not handle, but that his white privileged sister-in-law was uniquely qualified to speak the language of. It was the most sophisticated, insulting, and subtly racist thing anyone had said to me all year. Focus on what you are good at, Kesha, he finished while giving my shoulder a final dismissive pat. Focus on the numbers. I stared at Stephen, at his calm, paternalistic face. He was trying to soothe the emotional analyst so she would go back to her desk and keep the company profitable. Focus on the numbers, I repeated with my voice flat. Is that what you think I do, Stephen? Just focus on the numbers. His smile wavered just slightly. Well, you are the best we have at it, he said. Then you should know, I said while taking a small step closer, that you would not have this $15 million deal if it were not for my numbers. This opportunity did not fall out of the sky. Brenda did not find it, and Tiffany damn sure did not find it. I let the accusation hang in the air. I found this lead, I continued. I found it at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday while I was running a competitive analysis on a completely different account. I was the one who discovered that Axiom's contract with McKinsey was expiring. I was the one who found the internal memo about their strategic shift. I drafted the cold outreach proposal that got us this meeting in the first place. I looked past him toward the darkened part of the office where Tiffany's empty desk sat. And while I was doing that, where was your sister, the face of this operation, the one with the finesse? I asked. I did not wait for his answer. She was in Aspen. She was on a ski trip. She was posting selfies from a mountaintop while I was here building the very foundation she gets to fly across the country and stand on. So do not talk to me about my strong suit, Stephen. My strong suit is strategy. My strong suit is initiative. My strong suit is doing the real work, not just showing up for the applause. Stephen's smile did not waver, but his eyes went cold. He did not even acknowledge my point. He just heard my anger. Kesha, I appreciate your passion, he said, with his voice dripping with condescension. I really do. But that fire is exactly what I am talking about. It is just not what we need in the room tomorrow. It is not finesse. He pushed himself off the table and straightened his suit jacket. Now I have got to get home, he said. My wife is waiting. He paused at the door. You should get some rest too. You have done great work. Just keep doing what you do best. Stay in your lane. Good night. He was gone. I stood alone in the dark, silent boardroom with my own words echoing in my ears. He had told me to stay in my lane, after I had just explained that I was the lane. The humiliation and rage were so potent I felt lightheaded. I let myself feel it for exactly 1 minute. The insult, the dismissal, the casual racism, the theft of my work, trash. Then I calmly picked up my phone. I did not text my friends. I did not call my mentor. I scrolled through my contacts past all the O names for Orion until I got to the B names. I hit the pinned contact at the top, Bro Malik. The phone rang twice before he picked up. Kesha, what is up, sis? He said. It is late in Atlanta. I took a deep, steadying breath, and my voice was now perfectly calm. All the emotional fire was gone. Hey, big bro, I said. Remember how you said you owed me one after I single-handedly saved Thanksgiving dinner from Mom's culinary experiment? I heard him laugh on the other end. I will never forget it, he said. I owe you my life. What do you need? My smile returned, but this time it was real. I am calling in that favor, I said. It is about your $15 million deal with Orion Consulting. The drive to Buckhead was a blur. I was running on pure adrenaline and the cold, hard fury that had settled in my heart. I pulled up to a discreet upscale jazz bar. It was the kind of place where Atlanta's black elite made deals over $100 cocktails. I walked in, and the hostess immediately knew who I was. "Miss Gray, your brother is waiting for you, in his usual booth," she said. I nodded and walked past the low stage, where a trio was playing soft, expensive-sounding jazz. In the darkest corner, booth Malik Thompson looked up from his phone, and his face broke into a wide, warm smile. At 36 years old, my older brother was the CEO of Axiom Tech, and the man my bosses were desperate to impress. "Kesha," he said while standing to hug me tight, "you look like you are ready to burn something down. What is wrong?" "They called me Trash Malik," I whispered while sliding into the booth. He sat back down and his smile vanished instantly. "Who did?" he asked. The world knew him as Malik Thompson, the tech genius. He had taken our father's last name after the divorce. I had kept our mother's last name. It was a simple split. It was one that had made it easy for me to fly under the radar at Orion Consulting. No one there had ever made the connection until now. "The people you are supposed to meet tomorrow," I said. "My boss, Brenda Harris, and her sister-in-law. They called you trash," he repeated with his voice dangerously quiet. "Tell me everything now." I ordered a whiskey neat, something strong to wash away the bitter taste of humiliation. Malik just watched me. His patience was a familiar comfort. He never pushed, he just waited. I took a sip and the burn steadied my hands. "Brenda told me I was not going," I said. "She said I was just the grunt work and that Tiffany had the polish to close the deal." I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Polish, that is what she called it. But it was Tiffany, her little sister-in-law, who really explained it to me. "What did she say?" Kesha Malik asked. His voice was calm, but his eyes had narrowed. "She told me," I said, while meeting his gaze, "that this was a $15 million table. That they could not just bring trash to a table like that." She called me Trash Malik. Malik did not move. His face became perfectly still. It was a stillness that I knew from childhood meant he was processing a profound insult. "But that is not even the worst part," I continued. "After they left Stephen, the CEO Brenda's husband, he came out. He gave me this whole paternalistic speech about how Brenda was just protecting me from the brutal front room politics. He said I was the engine and Tiffany was the shiny paint job, and then he told me why. He told me he was going to be frank with me. I leaned in and my voice dropped. He said, "This Malik Thompson, he is not like our usual clients. He is new money. He is Silicon Valley black tech." He said it like it was a disease, Malik, like you were some exotic animal. And then he said, "Tiffany understands that world. She speaks their language. She knows how to handle them." He said his white 28-year-old sister-in-law, who I had to teach about Cloud API last week, was the one qualified to handle you because I, the black woman who built the entire strategy, did not have the finesse for those specific kinds of people. The silence in the booth was absolute. The jazz music faded into the background. Malik slowly picked up his own glass without taking his eyes off mine. So he said with his voice terrifyingly soft, "Brenda Harris stole your work, humiliated you, and then let her husband's white sister call my sister trash because she was the only one who could handle the black CEO." "Yes," I whispered. He nodded once slowly. "Okay," he said. He took a long drink. "Okay, this changes things." Malik's knuckles were white as he gripped his glass. "Changes things, Kesha," he said. "It incinerates things. They did not just insult you. They stole your intellectual property and then insulted you. That is fraud on top of I do not even have a word for it." I let out that same short, bitter laugh. "That is the crazy part, Malik," I said. "It is not new. This is not some shocking development. It is just a Tuesday. It is the same story. It has always been just in a different building." He looked genuinely confused. "What are you talking about?" he asked. "We have never worked together before." "I am not talking about work," I said as the old familiar ache rose in my throat. "I am talking about our family. I am talking about Mom." He flinched. "Our mother's death 3 years ago was still a raw nerve for both of us, but for different reasons. You do not remember, do you?" I asked. You never saw it. You were always the favorite. You were the golden child, the doer. Kesha, that is not true, he said. Mom loved us both. She loved you as the star, Malik, and she loved me as the stage-hand, I said. Do not you remember? You were the one who executes, and I was the one who supports. You were the one who was going to make the Thompson name mean something. I was the one who was supposed to make sure the house was clean and dinner was on the table, so you had the space to do it. I saw a flicker of recognition in his eyes. Remember when you won that state robotics competition in high school, I asked. I was the one who stayed up for 2 nights straight soldering every motherboard for you because your hands were too shaky and you kept burning the circuits. I was the one who debugged your code. I remember you helped, he said, while shifting uncomfortably. No, Malik, I said, I did it. And when you held up that trophy, what did Mom tell everyone at the awards dinner? She said you had the steady hands of a surgeon and the mind of an engineer. And then she pointed at me and said, and Kesha is such a wonderful supportive helper. A helper, I repeated, not a partner, not an equal. A helper, the grunt work as Brenda called it just tonight. I leaned forward and the parallel made me sick. I left home, I said. I moved 2 states away. I got a high-powered job at a top consulting firm, and I just walked right back into the same family dynamic, Malik. It is the exact same damn thing. I am the helper again. I am the one soldering the motherboards all night. I am the one doing the grunt work. I am the engine in the back, and who gets to be the doer this time? Who gets the polish and the finesse? I did not let him answer. It is Tiffany, I said. Brenda's little white sister-in-law. She gets to be the shiny paint job. She gets to fly to San Francisco and take credit for my 6 weeks of sleepless nights. I am the black woman who built the entire strategy, and she is the little white girl who gets to present it because, according to her brother, she speaks the language and knows how to handle you. It is the ultimate insult. I am the workhorse. I am the mule. I am the trash so that she can get the glory. And Brenda, my black boss, who should know better, who should see me, she just holds the door open for her because Tiffany is her family. And I am just the help. I have spent my entire life being the helper, I continued. First for Mom making sure the house was perfect, then for you making sure your projects worked so you could shine, and now for them. I am tired, Malik. I am just so tired of being the helper. I am tired of being the trash. Malik was silent for a long time. He stared into his glass as if the answers were at the bottom. The jazz music seemed to swell to fill the quiet. Finally he looked up, and the anger in his eyes was gone. It was replaced by a deep, profound sadness. You are right, he said with his voice rough. I never saw it that way. I was just running so fast toward my own goals. I never looked back to see who was clearing the path behind me. He shook his head with a look of self-disgust on his face. When Mom got sick, I was in London, he said. I was closing the Series B funding. I was on the cover of magazines, and I told myself I was too busy to come home. I told myself it was just a few months. 6 months, I corrected him with my voice flat. It was 6 months, Malik. 6 months of me alone in that house. I was the one who managed the hospice nurses. I was the one who held her hand when she was terrified at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was the one who bathed her. I was the one who listened to her apologize for not loving me as much as she loved you. His head snapped up with his eyes wide. She said that he asked. She did, I whispered, on one of her last coherent days. She said she was sorry. She said she knew she had pushed me to be the helper because she was scared I would not be as strong as you. She was scared I would not make it, so she tried to make me useful instead. I took a shaky breath, and the memory was still a sharp pain, and I have been carrying that, I said, trying to be useful and strong at the same time. I have been working myself to the bone at Orion, trying to prove I do not know, prove her wrong, prove everyone wrong, and what did it get me? The exact same role. I am just the helper. I am the mule. I am the grunt work. I am the trash. I pushed my untouched whiskey away. The fire I felt earlier was gone. It was replaced by a cold, hard resolve. I am tired of it, Malik, I said. I am tired of building things just so people like Tiffany and Brenda can put their name on it and walk away with the prize. I am tired of being the engine that powers their shiny paint job. I am just done. I looked at him, my brother, the only family I had left who mattered. You asked me what is wrong, I said. This is what is wrong, and you owe me. You owe me for London. You owe me for all those nights I bugged your code. And I am calling it in. I do not just want to embarrass them, Malik. My voice dropped and the coldness returned. I want them to pay for it. I want them to hurt. I want them to feel just for 1 second what I felt tonight. I want you to help me destroy them. Malik pushed his glass away. All traces of sadness were gone. His face was now the one I saw on the cover of business magazines. It was sharp, focused, and utterly ruthless. You are right, he said. You are not a helper. You are a founder. You just have not had the right partners. He leaned forward with his voice dropping. So let us be partners, he said. You want them to pay. You want them to hurt. We are not going to do it by screaming or by playing their petty games. We are going to do it my way. We are going to let them destroy themselves with their own arrogance. I just looked at him waiting. You are wrong about one thing, Kesha, he said, as a cold smile touched his lips. They are going to get their meeting. They are going to fly all the way to San Francisco on that 7 o'clock in the morning flight. They are going to walk into my headquarters, and they are going to get the meeting of their lives, just not with me. My confusion must have shown on my face because he elaborated. They want to talk to the CEO of Axiom Tech, he said. Fine, but they are not going to meet with Malik Thompson, the black tech CEO they think they can handle. They are going to meet with Lorna James, my chief legal officer, a 65-year-old black woman who graduated top of her class at Harvard Law and who eats men like Stephen Shaw for breakfast. And she is going to tear their fraudulent, racist, half-baked proposal to shreds piece by piece. And while they are in that conference room getting legally dismembered, he continued, where will you be, sis? He paused, letting the suspense build. You will be in my private boardroom on the 40th floor, and you will be pitching your original strategy not to them, but to my entire executive board. We are going to have a little discussion about Axiom Tech's new 5-year plan, and how we might need a brilliant new president of strategic analytics to lead it. They stole your work, Kesha, he said. Fine. We are going to show them what that work is actually worth, and then we are going to take everything from them, not just this deal. We are going to take their company. I have been looking for an acquisition in Atlanta. I think I just found one, 9:45 in the morning. The lobby of Axiom Tech in San Francisco was less an office and more a cathedral of innovation. It was a 3-story atrium of polished concrete with soaring glass walls and a massive living green wall that pulsed with automated irrigation. It was designed to intimidate, to scream new money and future at a deafening volume. Brenda Harris and Tiffany Shaw walked in completely undeterred. They moved through the space not like guests, but like conquerors expecting the red carpet to unroll at their feet. Brenda's heels clicked with sharp, impatient authority on the concrete floor. She wore a severe, expensive white suit. It was her armor for the day. Tiffany trailed slightly behind, already taking a video of the lobby for her Instagram story. Her expression was one of bored appraisal. It is nice, I guess, she muttered loud enough for the security staff to hear. A little sterile. Brenda strode directly to the massive black marble security desk. She cut in front of 2 men in suits who were patiently waiting. She did not apologize. She tapped her long red fingernails on the marble surface in an impatient rhythm. Brenda Harris and Tiffany Shaw from Orion Consulting, she announced to the air. She was not making eye contact with the woman behind the desk. We have a 10 o'clock meeting with Malik Thompson. He is expecting us. Her tone was final. It was the voice of a woman who had never had to wait. A woman who assumed all doors would open for her. A woman who believed her time was infinitely more valuable than anyone else's. She expected the receptionist to jump up, to fawn, to immediately usher them to the executive elevator. She was completely, utterly unprepared for the cool, appraising stare of the woman who slowly looked up from her screen. The woman behind the desk, Low Benson, head of security, looked up slowly. She was a striking black woman in her late 30s, wearing a perfectly tailored suit and an earpiece that signaled she was more than just a receptionist. She did not smile. She simply raised an eyebrow. "Can I help you?" she asked. Brenda repeated herself slower this time, as if speaking to a child. "Brenda Harris, Tiffany, Shaw, Orion, consulting 10 o'clock, Malik Thompson," she said. Low typed their names into her terminal with deliberate, unhurried keystrokes. The clicking of the keys was the only sound. Brenda tapped her nails on the marble again. Her impatience was obvious. "I am sorry," Low said. Her voice was polite but completely flat. It held no apology at all. "I do not have a meeting scheduled for a Brenda Harris or a Tiffany Shaw." Brenda's smile faltered. "What she said, that is impossible. Check again." Orion Consulting, Low said while typing again. "Oh, I do see a 10 o'clock meeting." "It is for Orion representatives." "Is that you?" Tiffany scoffed. "Obviously that is us," she said. "Representatives, as if he does not know our names." Low's polite mask did not slip. "Of course," she said. "Unfortunately, Mr. Thompson was called into an urgent executive meeting. He is running significantly behind schedule." She gestured vaguely to a set of low, uncomfortable-looking modern sofas in the corner of the lobby. "Please have a seat," she said. "I will let his executive assistant know you have arrived." Brenda looked like she wanted to argue. She was a vice president. She did not wait in lobbies. "Do you have any idea when he will be available?" she asked. "We have a very tight schedule." "I am afraid I do not," Low said. Her smile was not reaching her eyes. "I am sure his assistant will be in touch as soon as he is free." Her gaze was already dropping back to her computer screen. It was a clear dismissal. Fuming Brenda and Tiffany had no choice but to walk over to the waiting area. They sat stiffly on the hard leather sofa. Their expensive briefcases were placed in front of them like shields. They were the only ones waiting. The massive, impressive lobby was quiet save for the distant hum of the Green Walls water system. They were being ignored and they knew it. 10:15 came and went. Then 10:30. Brenda was now pacing the length of the marble desk. Her heels were clicking angrily. The sound echoed in the cavernous lobby. Tiffany was furiously typing on her phone. She was probably complaining to her brother Stephen about the disrespect. "This is unacceptable," Brenda muttered to Tiffany while checking her watch for the 10th time. "When I get in there, Malik Thompson is going to hear about this. We do not get treated like this. It was 10:45 in the morning." Just as Brenda was about to march back to the desk, a soft electronic chime sounded. It was not the main lobby elevators. It was the private brushed steel executive elevator, the one reserved for the C-suite and high-level guests. The one that required a special key card. Brenda and Tiffany both turned. The doors slid open with a whisper and Kesha Gray stepped out. It was not the Kesha they had insulted less than 12 hours ago. That Kesha was gone. The woman who emerged was a stranger to them. She wore a stunning custom-tailored power suit in a vibrant cobalt blue that demanded attention. Her hair, which she usually wore in a simple professional bun, was styled in intricate artistic cornrows that swept back from her face, highlighting her high cheekbones. She was not carrying a heavy laptop bag. She held only her phone and a slim leather portfolio. She was not nervous or tired. She was radiating pure, unadulterated confidence. She looked, in a word, powerful. She was not alone. She was flanked by two men in expensive dark suits, both of whom were listening to her with rapt attention as she finished a sentence. She was laughing at a joke she had just made. Brenda and Tiffany froze. Their mouths literally fell open. They stared immobile as Kesha and her entourage began walking across the lobby. They were trying to compute the scene, the workhorse, the grunt, the trash, emerging from the CEO private elevator, dressed like $1 million, while they, the finesse, the polish, had been left to wait on a hard leather sofa for nearly an hour. The image was so wrong, so outside their understanding of the world that they could not even speak. Kesha walked across the lobby. Her heels made a sharp, confident sound on the polished concrete. She did not walk to Brenda. She did not even look in her direction. She walked with the easy, unhurried purpose of someone who owned the space. Her entourage of 2 men flanked her slightly. Brenda, completely bewildered, stumbled forward. Her voice was a high-pitched, ugly screech that shattered the lobby's quiet. "Kesha," she yelled. "Kesha Gray, what in the world do you think you are doing?" Tiffany, pale and confused, yelled after her. "You cannot be here," she said. "Security, this woman does not have an appointment. She works for us." They were loud. They were making a scene. The 2 other men in suits who had been waiting patiently were now staring wide-eyed at the unfolding drama. Kesha did not stop, she did not falter, she did not even break her stride. She reached the massive marble security desk standing directly in front of Kesha. Brenda and Tiffany rushed up right behind her. A wave of fury and confusion was rolling off them. "Kesha, or whatever your name is," Brenda hissed. Her professional mask was completely gone. "This woman is not supposed to be here. She is a junior analyst from our firm. She is not part of the executive meeting. Please have her removed immediately." Kesha did not even glance at Brenda. Her entire demeanor, which had been so cold and bored just moments before, had transformed. She stood up straight, a warm, professional, and deeply respectful smile spread across her face. Her focus was entirely on Kesha. "Good morning, Miss Gray," Kesha said. Her voice was rich and welcoming. "We have been expecting you." Brenda froze mid-sentence with her mouth hanging open. What she said, "What did you just call her?" Miss Gray, Kesha repeated. Her eyes were still locked on Kesha. "Mr. Thompson is waiting for you in the executive boardroom on the 40th floor." "The rest of the board is already assembled," Miss Gray, Tiffany whispered. The words sounded absurd on her lips. She is just Kesha," she said. "She works for us. She is the data girl." Kesha finally turned her head just slightly to look at Tiffany. The polite mask was gone. It was replaced by a look of sheer, unadulterated disdain. "She is Miss Kesha Gray," Kesha stated. Her voice was sharp as glass. "Our primary consultant and the architect of the Axiom Orion proposal. You," she said while looking at Brenda, "are the Orion representatives. You are scheduled to meet with our legal department," and she glanced at her screen, "45 minutes if they can fit you in." "Legal," Brenda choked out. The color was draining from her face. "We are here to see the CEO. Mr. Thompson," Kesha said while turning her warm smile back to Kesha, "is in his meeting." "You are meeting Miss Gray." Kesha then produced a high-level platinum security badge from a drawer. "Your all-access credentials, Miss Gray," she said. "This will get you to the executive floors." Kesha took the badge. Her hands were steady. She looped the lanyard around her neck. It was a simple gesture that looked like a coronation. She gave Kesha a small, appreciative nod. "Thank you, Kesha," she said. "I appreciate the warm welcome." "Of course, Miss Gray," Kesha replied. "It is a pleasure to finally meet you in person. Mr. Thompson speaks very highly of you." "He is a good brother," Kesha said. Her voice was clear and loud enough for Brenda and Tiffany to hear every single syllable. Brenda's mind was visibly struggling to catch up. Her eyes were wide with a dawning horror. "Brother," she said. What brother, what are you talking about?" Kesha finally turned to face them. She looked at Brenda, then at Tiffany. Her gaze moved over them slowly. She was assessing them from head to toe. It was the same look Brenda had given her last night, the look of appraisal, but this time Kesha was the one holding all the power. The trash was now the one deciding if they were worth recycling. She did not answer Brenda's question. She did not need to. Instead, she just smiled, that same slow, cold smile from the night before. "Brenda," Kesha said. Her voice was smooth as silk. "Tiffany, it is so good to see you both made it safely. San Francisco is lovely this time of year, is not it?" She adjusted the lapel of her cobalt blue suit. "I have to run," she said. "The board is waiting. You know how it is. We cannot keep the CEO waiting." She started to walk toward the executive elevator. "But wait," Tiffany cried out. There was a note of real panic in her voice. "What about our meeting? What about the $15 million deal? Kesha paused with one hand on the sleek steel elevator panel. She looked back over her shoulder. Her smile widened just a fraction. "Oh, the meeting," she said while tilting her head. "I am sure someone will be down to see you eventually. Legal can be so unpredictable. Good luck in your meeting," she said. "I truly hope it goes exactly the way you deserve." She swiped her new platinum card. The elevator doors chimed and slid open. Kesha stepped inside. She turned and watched their horrified, confused, and furious faces as the doors slid shut, leaving them behind. Brenda and Tiffany stood alone in the center of the massive, silent lobby. They had been dismissed. They had been put in their place, and they had no idea what was about to hit them. The executive boardroom on the 40th floor was the complete opposite of the lobby. While the lobby was vast and public, this room was intimate, warm, and screamed power. Dark wood walls, a single massive marble table, and one entire wall of floor-to-ceiling glass offered a breathtaking, unobstructed view of the San Francisco Bay and the Golden Gate Bridge. Malik Thompson was not sitting at the head of the table. He was standing by the window looking out. A coffee mug was in his hand. Standing beside him was a woman I had never met but instantly respected. She was tall, in her 60s, with striking silver hair pulled back into a tight chignon. She wore a dark purple suit that was impeccably tailored, and her sharp, intelligent eyes missed nothing. This had to be Lorna James, the chief legal officer. The elevator chimed softly as I entered, and both of them turned. Malik's serious expression vanished. It was replaced by a proud grin. "There she is," he said. "Kesha, you look incredible. That suit is fire." Had to look the part, I said, while feeling a genuine smile return to my face. Malik made the introduction. "Kesha Gray, this is Lorna James," he said. "Lorna, this is my sister, Kesha, the one I told you about." The architect of this whole thing. Lorna stepped forward and shook my hand. Her grip was firm, her gaze was direct. "Miss Gray," she said. Her voice was a deep, smooth alto. "It is a pleasure to finally meet you. I have spent the last 12 hours reviewing the Orion files you sent over. Architect is the correct word. What you built is brilliant. What they did," she paused, "is actionable. They are downstairs," Malik said while gesturing to a screen on the wall. It showed a silent black and white feed of the lobby. We could see Brenda and Tiffany sitting stiffly on the sofa. They were radiating fury and confusion. Lo, just let me know. They are reaching their breaking point," he said. "Brenda has already tried to pull rank on 3 different security guards." Good, Lorna said. There was not a trace of humor in her voice. "Let them marinate in their own arrogance. It builds character." Lorna James turned from the window and walked toward the head of the table. She was picking up a thin folder. "Miss Gray," she began. Her legalistic tone was cutting through the air. "I have reviewed the preliminary internal accounting files you acquired from the Orion servers. Your suspicions were not just correct. They were conservative." She opened the folder. It revealed a spreadsheet filled with highlighted alarming numbers. "Stephen Shaw has not just been sloppy," Lorna said. "He has been actively fraudulent. We are looking at, by my initial estimate, just under $2 million in miscategorized executive expenses over the last 18 months, all routing back to his sister Tiffany Shaw." Malik let out a low whistle. "$2 million on what?" he asked. "How does an analyst even spend that much?" I shook my head. "She is not an analyst, Malik," I said. "That is just her title on paper. She is Stephen's sister. She is Brenda's sister-in-law. In reality, she is a professional leech. I started digging about 3 months ago," I explained. My voice was steady. "I noticed our department's research and development budget. It was completely out of control. We were supposedly spending $70,000 a month on client engagement, software, and market research subscriptions that I had never heard of and certainly never used. When I tried to access the vendor accounts, they were all firewalled." I looked at Lorna. "So I did a little after-hours digging," I said. "It was not hard. Stephen's financial security is as sloppy as his management style. The vendor accounts were all shell companies, and those shells were paying for Tiffany's life." Malik looked stunned, paying for what he asked, everything I said. The scale of it was still shocking me. That Aspen ski trip I mentioned last night, $25,000 logged as competitive analysis. The new Mercedes she drives leased through the company as an executive vehicle, even though she is 2 levels below executive, her apartment in Buckhead, her shopping sprees at Phipps Plaza, all of it coded as marketing expenses or travel and entertainment. Stephen Shaw has been using his company's research and development budget as his little sister's personal piggy bank, I summarized. Lorna nodded grimly, and based on the dates it has gotten worse since Brenda Harris, his wife, took over the department, she said. She has not just been enabling it, she has been actively helping him hide it, which brings us to today, I said while connecting the final dot. Why were they so desperate for this Axiom deal? Why was Brenda willing to throw me under the bus and humiliate me just to get Tiffany in the room? It is not about growth, Malik realized. His eyes were widening. It is a cover-up. Exactly, I said. Orion's quarterly odd. It is in 2 weeks. An external firm is flying in from New York. If they see that $2 million hole in the budget, Stephen is finished. The company is finished. They will be exposed for fraud. This $15 million deal, I continued, my deal was not about expanding the company. It was about plugging the hole. They needed that initial signing bonus. That first injection of cash to cover up the money Stephen stole for his sister before the auditors could find it. Lorna James permitted herself a small, cold smile. Which means, Miss Gray, she said, that they are walking into this meeting not just as arrogant negotiators, but as deeply desperate criminals. They need this deal. Their entire house of cards depends on it. Malik looked at me. All traces of brotherly affection were replaced by the respect of one CEO for another. So when they are down there stewing in the lobby, he said they have no idea they are not here for a negotiation. They are here for an interrogation. Exactly, I said. They think they are the ones with the polish. They have no idea I am the one bringing the trash to light. Malik leaned back in his chair. He was tapping a pen on the marble table. So let us be clear, he said. The $15 million proposal they are here to pitch. It is dead. We are not signing it. We are not even considering it. It is built on fraud and stolen work. I understand that, I said. But what is the plan? We just send them home. Send them home, Lorna James said while looking at me as if I had suggested serving lukewarm coffee. Oh no, Miss Gray. We do not send them home. We leverage. She turned to Malik. Their entire company is vulnerable, she said. Stephen Shaw has compromised his fiduciary duty. He has exposed Orion to shareholder lawsuits and a federal audit. When this information becomes public, their stock will not just drop. It will cease to exist. They are bankrupt. They just do not know it yet. Exactly, Malik said. The smile was returning. So we are not here to discuss a partnership with Orion. We are here to discuss the terms of our acquisition. I felt my breath catch. Acquisition, I asked. You want to buy Orion? I do not want the whole rotten company, Malik said while waving a dismissive hand. I do not want their overpriced offices, their fraudulent executive team, or their dead-weight finesse department. But you said it yourself. You built the analytics team. You trained them. Your data analysts back in Atlanta, the ones Brenda and Stephen ignore. Are they any good? They are brilliant, I said immediately. They are just demoralized. They are tired of doing all the work just to see people like Tiffany get the credit. Good, Malik said. Then that is what we are acquiring. We are not signing their $15 million deal. We are going to make a counter-offer. We will acquire the entire Orion Analytics division, its personnel, its current client contracts, for a fraction of its worth. We will absorb your team into Axiom, and Stephen Shaw will have no choice but to accept it because the alternative is me handing over Lorna's file to the SEC. He will take the deal to avoid prison. Malik glanced at the wall screen, which showed a silent split-second feed of the lobby. Down below, Brenda was now standing at the security desk, tapping her foot. Her arms were crossed. Tiffany was busy reapplying her lipstick, looking thoroughly annoyed. They are getting agitated, Malik observed. The corner of his mouth was twitching. They have been stewing for over an hour. I think it is time to move them. He tapped his desk phone, connecting directly to KH Low at the front desk. KH Low, it is Malik, he said. Our guests from Orion. They have waited long enough. Please escort them up. He paused, listening. No, not to the 40th floor. Absolutely not. Take them to conference room B on the 35th floor. The small one, the one by the server room. I had to stop myself from smiling. Conference room B was the room new hires were processed in. It was windowless. It had beige walls, and the air conditioning was always too cold. It was the definition of corporate insignificance. Exactly, Malik continued. Get them settled, offer them some water, not the good sparkling water, just the tap, and then let them wait. Let them wait another 15 minutes. Make them think about how badly this is going. Then, Lorna, you will go in. He hung up the phone and looked at Lorna, who was already gathering her files with the grim determination of a predator. Let the games begin, Malik said while turning to me. He tapped a control on the table, and the large screen at the end of our boardroom lit up. KH Low will patch the feed from room B to us, he said. We will not miss a thing. It was 11:23 in the morning. Brenda and Tiffany had been sitting in the windowless beige-walled conference room B for exactly 17 minutes. The air conditioning was, as Malik predicted, uncomfortably cold. Brenda was rubbing her arms. Her expensive suit was offering little warmth. Tiffany was scrolling angrily through her phone. Her earlier boredom was now replaced by pure frustration. The door finally opened, but it was not Malik Thompson. It was Lorna James. She walked in exuding an aura of authority that immediately put Brenda on the defensive. Lorna was flanked by two associates. Both were carrying identical leather briefcases. Brenda Harris, Tiffany Shaw, Lorna asked. Her voice was polite but firm. She did not offer to shake hands. Brenda stood up. Her voice was tight with suppressed rage. It is Dr. Harris, she snapped. It was a credential she rarely used unless she felt threatened. And yes, we are here to see Malik Thompson. We were told 10 o'clock. It is now almost 11:30. This is completely unacceptable. We flew here from Atlanta for this meeting. Tiffany stood up as well. She was chiming in to support her sister-in-law. My brother Stephen Shaw, the CEO of Orion, is going to hear about this, she said. This is no way to treat a potential $15 million partner. Lorna James did not even flinch. She simply placed her briefcase on the table and opened it with slow, deliberate clicks. Please sit down, Dr. Harris, Miss Shaw, she said. Mr. Thompson was unfortunately and unavoidably detained. He sends his deepest apologies. Detained with what Brenda demanded. She was not sitting. With a last-minute, urgent internal strategy session, Lorna replied smoothly. These things happen in a fast-moving market. However, he has asked me to handle this preliminary meeting in his stead. You, Brenda said. She looked Lorna up and down. Her gaze was dismissive. And you are. I am Lorna James, she said. Her voice dropped a degree, becoming even colder. I am the Chief Legal Officer and General Counsel for Axiom Tech. All major contracts, including this potential one, must go through my office first. So in effect, Dr. Harris, your meeting was always with me. Mr. Thompson simply accelerated the timeline. Now please sit. The command was not a request. Brenda and Tiffany, sensing they had lost control of the room, sat down stiffly. Their faces were masks of indignation. Lorna James sat down. She was placing her hands flat on the polished table. She looked directly at Brenda. Dr. Harris, let us begin, she said. We have received your firm's proposal regarding the $15 million Axiom Tech strategic partnership. It is comprehensive. Brenda visibly preened. She was regaining some of her footing. She thought this was a compliment. Yes, she said. Well, Orion is known for its thoroughness. As I am sure you saw, our projections are quite robust. Now, if we could just get Mr. Thompson in here, Tiffany and I can walk you through the key. Lorna held up a single, perfectly manicured hand. The gesture was so absolute, so final, that Brenda stopped talking mid-sentence. As I mentioned, Lorna said. Her voice was impossibly calm. Mr. Thompson was called into an urgent internal strategy session. He will not be joining us, not joining us, Tiffany blurted out. Her voice was high and incredulous. We flew across the country. This is a $15 million deal. What could possibly be more important than this meeting? Lorna's expression did not change. She did not react to Tiffany's outburst. She simply looked at her the way a teacher might look at a child who has spoken out of turn. What is more important, Miss Shaw, she said, is our new 5-year global strategy. Mr. Thompson is currently in that meeting. It is an all-hands-on-deck situation with our new executive leadership. Brenda leaned forward. She was sensing an opening to regain control. New leadership, she said. We track Axiom's executive movements closely. You have not announced any new C-suite hires. That is correct, Lorna said. This is not a C-suite hire. This is a new custom-created role. Mr. Thompson is in the main boardroom right now finalizing the contract for our new, let me get the title exactly right, our new President of Strategic Data, Analytics and Innovation. Brenda frowned. The name was confusing her. President of Analytics, she said. I thought we were your analytics partners. That is what this entire proposal is about. Our analyst, Kesha Gray, is the one who built the models you are supposedly buying. Yes, Lorna said. A flicker of something almost like a smile was playing on her lips. We are well aware of Miss Gray's work, which is why this new internal strategy session is so critical. Mr. Thompson believes, and the entire board agrees, that this new role is the single most important hire Axiom will make this fiscal year. That is what is more important than this meeting, Dr. Harris. Now shall we discuss your proposal, or would you prefer to reschedule? Brenda was trapped. She could not leave, but she had just been told her entire proposal was secondary to a new hire she had never even heard of. Brenda's jaw tightened. She had been publicly demoted, first to the lobby and now to this windowless room, and she knew it. But she was trapped. She needed this deal. She forced a brittle smile. Of course, Miss James, she said. We are just eager to get started. This proposal is very important to us, and we believe it will be transformative for Axiom. We will be the judge of that, Lorna said. Her voice was dry. Brenda shot a poisonous look at Tiffany, who was now silent. Tiffany was finally realizing the gravity of their situation. Brenda reached down and clicked open her briefcase. She pulled out her copy of the 30-page proposal, my proposal, the one I had slaved over, the one that was supposed to be her ticket to success. She slid it across the table to Lorna. As you will see on page 3, the market analysis. Brenda never got to finish that sentence. At that exact moment, the massive 80-inch display screen on the wall, which had been black, flickered to life. Brenda and Tiffany both startled. A bright blue Axiom logo appeared, then vanished. What is this? Brenda asked. She was annoyed at the interruption. Are we being patched into a call? Is Mr. Thompson joining us? Lorna James simply leaned back in her chair. She was placing her hands in her lap. In a manner of speaking, she said. The screen flickered again, and then the image resolved. It was not a logo. It was a live video feed. The camera was positioned high in a stunning boardroom, the one I had just been in, with the entire San Francisco Bay glittering behind a wall of glass. Seated around the massive marble table were at least a dozen people. Malik Thompson was at the head. His entire C-suite was there, the CFO, the COO, the head of engineering, all of them. They were all listening. Their faces were turned with complete undivided attention to Kesha Gray. Brenda and Tiffany both made a sound. It was a strange, choked gasp. I was standing at the podium dressed in my cobalt blue power suit. I was not the workhorse, Kesha. I was not the trash. I was the one in command. I was pointing to a data chart on the main screen in their room. My voice was confident and clear. It was coming through the speakers in conference room B. Tiffany, what is this? Brenda whispered. Her eyes were wide. Her face was pale with a dawning terrible confusion. What is she doing here? Is this a pre-recorded presentation? I do not know, Tiffany stammered. Her eyes were darting between the screen and Lorna James. That is the analyst. That is Kesha. This is some kind of mistake, Brenda said. Her voice was rising in panic. She looked at Lorna. Turn this off, she said. This is our proprietary data. Your team has no right to be viewing it without us. We are the Orion representatives. Lorna James just sipped her water. Her expression was perfectly neutral. She was letting them watch. On the screen, my voice continued. It was powerful and unwavering. The data Brenda and Tiffany are presenting to you today is based on a flawed premise, I said. They are proposing a $15 million partnership. But as you can see from the actual Q4 projections I developed, which were omitted from their final deck, the market opportunity is not just $15 million. By leveraging our existing logistics infrastructure, the real uncapped value of this move is closer to $40 million in the first 2 years alone. Brenda's face turned from pale to an ugly mottled white. She understood I was not just in the meeting. I was actively, systematically, and brilliantly torpedoing her proposal. I was exposing her as a fool who had left the real money on the table, all because she had not bothered to read the work of the trash who had prepared it. Turn this off, Brenda shrieked. She was slamming her hand on the table. I demand you turn this off right now. This is corporate espionage. You stole our analyst. Lorna James finally leaned forward. Her eyes were cold and hard as diamonds. Please sit down, Dr. Harris, she said. The meeting, Mr. Thompson's meeting, is just beginning. Brenda and Tiffany stared. They were utterly mesmerized as the version of me on the screen, confident, powerful, and in total command, continued to present. I watched them from the 40th floor. My own feed of their windowless room was displayed on a small monitor. Brenda's face was a mask of disbelief. Tiffany just looked pale and confused. I do not understand, Tiffany whispered. Her voice was audible over the microphone in their room. She is pitching against us. She is working for them. She cannot do this, Brenda said. She was finally finding her voice. She turned to Lorna James. This is a breach of contract, she said. She is an Orion employee. This presentation is Orion intellectual property. You are poaching our analyst. We will sue. Lorna James did not even look at her. She just watched the screen as I finished my data presentation and took a step back. On the screen, Malik Thompson stood up. He smiled warmly at me and clapped. It was a slow, deliberate sound that boomed through the speakers in Conference Room B. The rest of the boardroom joined him in applause. Thank you, Kesha. Malik's voice filled their room. That was as expected brilliant. You have not only shown us the true $40 million potential of this market, but you have also highlighted some significant internal risks in the Orion proposal. Brenda's head snapped back to the screen. What she said, what risks? Our proposal is ironclad. Malik turned as if he could hear her and looked directly into the camera. His friendly demeanor was gone. It was replaced by the cold focus of a CEO about to deliver a killing blow. Kesha's analysis has been exceptionally thorough, Malik said, so thorough, in fact, that it identified several alarming discrepancies in Orion's own financials. Discrepancies that frankly call this entire partnership into question. Lorna James finally spoke. Pay attention, Dr. Harris, she said. This is the important part. Kesha's analysis, Malik continued, which she so generously provided to our legal team, identified several key weaknesses in Orion's corporate structure. Specifically, he paused. His eyes were narrowing. A deeply troubling pattern of using secured marketing and research funds to cover unrelated executive expenses. In my room, I watched Tiffany's hand fly to her mouth. She knew. On the screen, Malik continued. Expenses such as $25,000 ski trips to Aspen, he said, luxury vehicle leases, personal shopping sprees at Phipps Plaza, all coded as client engagement or competitive analysis, all authorized by CEO Stephen Shaw and all benefiting his sister Miss Tiffany Shaw. Brenda looked at Tiffany. Her eyes were wide with a new dawning horror. This was not just about losing a deal. This was about being exposed. This Dr. Harris, Malik said. His voice was like ice. This is not a proposal. It is a cover-up. You are desperate. You need this $15 million deal not for growth, but to plug a $2 million hole in your books before your auditors find it in 2 weeks. Brenda's face crumpled. She was not an executive anymore. She was just a cornered woman who had been found out. She was trapped. Brenda stared at the screen. Her face was ashen. This is slander, she whispered, but the fight was gone from her voice. Stephen will. He will fix this. He will call your board. On the screen, Malik Thompson let out a short, cold laugh. Stephen Shaw is in no position to fix anything, Brenda, he said. In fact, I would imagine he is receiving a call from his board right about now. The one I just alerted to this $2 million discrepancy. He then looked not at his team, not at me, but directly into the camera lens. He was looking right at them, at Brenda, at Tiffany. Ah, Brenda, Tiffany, he said. His voice was dripping with mock formality. Thank you for joining us. I am so glad you could be here for the end of this presentation. As you have just heard, your company's financials are, let us call it, creative. Therefore, he continued, I want to inform you personally. The $15 million proposal is rejected. Axiom Tech will not be moving forward with this partnership. We do not do business with companies that engage in financial fraud. He paused, letting the words sink in. Brenda looked like she could not breathe. Oh, and there is one other thing, Malik said. His voice was dropping. All pretense of business was gone. It was replaced by the cold, protective anger of an older brother. We also do not do business with people who insult my family. Brenda and Tiffany both looked up. Their faces were a mask of pure, uncomprehending terror. You see, Malik said, I am what Stephen Shaw called new money black tech. The kind of man who needs handling, the kind of man who requires finesse. But what he and you failed to understand is that the only reason you even got this meeting is because of the trash you left behind in Atlanta. He turned and gestured to me. Kesha, do you have any final words for your former colleagues? He asked. I stepped forward, moving into the camera's frame. I was standing beside my brother. I looked directly into the lens. I was not looking at a camera. I was looking at Brenda. I was looking at Tiffany. I smiled. It was the same cold, empty smile I had given them in the boardroom last night. Brenda, Tiffany, I said. My voice was perfectly clear. Perfectly steady. Last night Tiffany asked a question. She asked why anyone would bring trash to a $15 million meeting. I have just been wondering, how does it feel to be the trash that just got taken out? Malik's hand hit a button on the table. The screen in conference room B went black. Lorna James sat in silence. She was letting the weight of that final cutting remark settle into the cold beige room. Brenda's face was white. Her mouth was still open in a silent O of disbelief. Tiffany had started to cry. Not loud, dramatic sobs, but the silent, terrified tears of someone who had just seen her entire future evaporate. Lorna calmly closed her leather briefcase. The click of the latches sounded like a judge's gavel. Well, Lorna said. Her voice was smooth and neutral. That concludes our meeting. As Mr. Thompson indicated, we will not be moving forward with your proposal. And given the fraudulent nature of your company's accounting, which we will be reporting, I would suggest you retain personal legal counsel immediately. She stood up. 2 of my security officers will now show you out, she said. Brenda was paralyzed. She could not move. But our flight, she stammered. That is no longer Axiom's concern, Lorna said. She walked to the door and opened it. 2 large uniformed security guards were revealed. Gentlemen, please escort Dr. Harris and Miss Shaw from the building, she said. The walk from conference room B on the 35th floor to the main lobby was the longest walk of Brenda's life. It was a walk of absolute shame. They were not cuffed. They were not touched, but the presence of the 2 imposing guards walking one in front and one behind announced to every employee they passed that they were being forcibly removed. People peered over their cubicle walls. The vibrant, innovative energy of Axiom Tech paused as the two disgraced women were paraded through the office. When they reached the main lobby, Lo was waiting for them at the security desk. She watched them approach. Her face was a perfect mask of professional neutrality. Brenda, in a final pathetic grasp for dignity, tried to hand her parking validation ticket to Lo. Lo did not take it. She just looked at Brenda's trembling hand. "We do not validate parking for uninvited guests," she said. Her voice was clear enough for the entire lobby to hear. "You can pay the full rate at the garage exit." One of the guards placed a firm hand on Brenda's elbow. It was the first time they had touched her. "This way, ma'am," he said. He steered her, and the other guard steered the sobbing Tiffany. They did not go toward the executive parking garage. They went straight through the main revolving glass doors and out onto the public sidewalk of San Francisco. The doors spun behind them. They were sealing them out in the bright, unforgiving mid-day sun. They had been quite literally thrown out. Brenda stumbled onto the sidewalk. The bright San Francisco sun felt like an assault. The noise of the city traffic was deafening. She stood there completely disoriented. Her briefcase was in one hand, her pride was in tatters, Tiffany was next to her openly sobbing. Her mascara was already running down her cheeks. "Brenda, what are we going to do?" Tiffany wailed. He is going to kill me." "He is going to kill us. Shut up, Tiffany," Brenda hissed. Her mind was racing. "Just let me think. I need to call Steven. I need to get ahead of this, that girl, she cannot. We can still fix this," but she did not get the chance. As she fumbled for her phone, it began to ring. It was vibrating violently in her trembling hand. The screen lit up with a picture of her husband, Steven. "It is Steven," she whispered. Her face was pale. She tried to compose herself, to straighten her suit, to find the voice of the executive she was supposed to be. She answered the call. "Steven, darling, listen," she said. "There was a complication. That girl Kesha, she was." She was cut off by a sound that was not a voice but a roar. It was Steven screaming so loudly through the phone that Tiffany flinched even from 3 feet away. "What did you do?" he bellowed. "What in the hell did you do, Brenda?" "Steven, I do not know what you mean," she stammered. "They know," he screamed. His voice was cracking with pure, unadulterated panic. "They know everything, Brenda. Axiom. They just sent the entire internal analytics file straight to the audit committee. Not just to me, to the entire board." Brenda's blood ran cold. What she said, what file? "The Aspen file, you idiot," he roared. "The $25,000 ski trip, the Mercedes lease for Tiffany, the Buckhead apartment. They know, Brenda. They know it all. They have the spreadsheets. They have the proof. The deal was supposed to cover that," he shrieked. "You were supposed to get that money, not expose us. You have ruined me. You have ruined us." The line went dead. He had hung up on her. Brenda stood motionless on the busy sidewalk. The phone was still pressed to her ear. The sounds of the city faded away. She heard Steven's words echoing in her head. They know everything." It was not just the deal. It was not just her job. It was her marriage, her reputation, her money, her entire life. The shiny paint job had just been scraped off. It revealed the rust and rot underneath. Her legs, which had stood so confidently in $1,000 heels just an hour ago, gave way. The phone slipped from her hand and clattered onto the concrete. Brenda Harris, the formidable Dr. Harris, vice president of Orion Consulting, simply collapsed. She crumpled onto the dirty city sidewalk. Her white suit was ruined. Her hands were covering her face as the full catastrophic weight of her failure finally crushed her. Meanwhile, 40 floors above the city, in a private dining room at an exclusive restaurant with panoramic views of the bay, a different kind of scene was unfolding. Kesha and Malik were clinking glasses. Not champagne, but expensive aged whiskey. The mood was not loud or boastful. It was quiet, satisfied, and complete. So Kesha said while swirling the amber liquid in her glass, "How did it feel watching them implode like that?" Malik took a slow sip. A thoughtful expression was on his face. "It felt necessary," he said. "You know, I have dealt with men like Stephen Shaw my whole life." Men who think they are the smartest in the room because they have never been truly challenged. They build these houses of cards on entitlement and backroom deals, and they are always shocked when a little wind blows it all over. He put his glass down and leaned forward, but this, he said, this was different. This was not just business, Kesha. This was family. They came after you. I just nodded. I was looking out at the city. They did not see me, Malik, I said. They saw a function. They saw a workhorse. They saw trash. They never saw the person. Will they see you now, he said. His phone, which had been sitting face down on the table, buzzed once. He glanced at the caller ID. A predatory smile touched his lips. Speak of the devil, he said. He did not answer it. He just let it ring. He was watching it vibrate on the dark wood. Who is it? I asked. Stephen Shaw, Malik replied while taking another sip of his whiskey. He has called me 4 times in the last 20 minutes. Ever since Lorna's team officially sent the audit file to the Orion board, he is panicking. As if on cue, the phone buzzed again with a text message. Malik picked it up and read it. His smile was widening. Oh, this is good, he said while handing the phone to me. I read the text from Stephen. It was a jumbled, desperate mess. Malik, please, we can fix this. Call me. It is a misunderstanding. Brenda is a good person. Tiffany is just a kid. Do not do this. I will do anything. He is begging, I whispered. I was feeling a strange, cold satisfaction. He just called Lorna too, Malik said. He is offering to sell. He is so terrified of the SEC and criminal charges that he is willing to give it all away just to make this go quiet. Give what away? I asked. Malik looked at me. His eyes were sharp. Everything we wanted, he said. He just offered to sell Orion's entire analytics division, personnel, client lists, active contracts, all of it in exchange for Axiom signing a non-disclosure agreement and forgetting to send Lorna's file to the SEC. How much? I asked. Malik's smile was pure ice. $1, he said. I stared at him. $1, I repeated. $1, he confirmed. He is willing to give away the only profitable, non-fraudulent part of his company. Your part? For $1 single just to save himself from prison. He raised his glass. So to your new promotion, sis, he said. I would like to officially welcome you as the new president of Axiom Analytics Atlanta Division. I think you just got us the deal of the century. 1 month later, I stood in the exact same spot where Stephen Shaw had once told me to stay in my lane, but the office was unrecognizable. The old heavy mahogany desks and plush-dated carpets of Orion Consulting were gone. In their place was the signature Axiom aesthetic: open-plan layouts, polished concrete floors, ergonomic chairs, and massive, vibrant murals painted by local Atlanta artists. The sign on the glass door of the executive suite did not say Stephen Shaw, CEO. It said Axiom Analytics Atlanta Division, and below that Kesha Gray, President. It was my office now, the corner office. I walked through the space, no longer a workhorse or an engine hiding in the back, but the one in charge. My old team, the analysts who Brenda had ignored, were now the core of this new division. They looked happier, more energized than I had ever seen them. Good morning, Miss Gray, my new assistant said as I passed. Good morning, Marcus, I replied while smiling. I stepped into my office. The wall overlooking the city was all glass. My old desk had been in a windowless cubicle. I sat down behind the massive custom-built desk. It was a gift from Malik. It was a long way from the 10 o'clock in the evening boardroom humiliation. I was just opening my laptop when my assistant buzzed me. Miss Gray, she said. Her voice was hesitant. You have a 10 o'clock appointment. A Miss Brenda Harris is here to see you. I looked at my calendar. I had deliberately set this meeting myself. Thank you, KH. Lo, I said while leaning back in my chair. Let her wait 15 minutes. My assistant KH Lo, who I had insisted Malik transfer from San Francisco with me, spoke through the intercom. Her voice was pure professionalism. Miss Gray, your 10:15 appointment, she said. Miss Brenda Harris is here. She arrived at 10 o'clock. I could hear the smile in her voice. Thank you, KH. Lo, I said while leaning back in my leather chair. I was looking out over the Atlanta skyline. My city now, let her wait until 10:15 on the dot. Offer her a water, the tap water, not the sparkling. Yes, Miss Gray, Cagelo replied. Her voice was brimming with satisfaction, so I sat there for 15 minutes. 15 minutes of absolute blissful earned silence. I did not check my email. I did not review my notes. I just listened to the quiet hum of my new office. I thought about the last time I had been in a room with Brenda. The humiliation, the fury, the feeling of being called trash. I thought about her pacing the lobby at Axiom headquarters. Her face was tight with impatience, and I imagined her now, sitting in my lobby. Sitting on a stylish, but intentionally firm sofa. I imagined her checking her watch. Her confusion was turning to indignation, and then to a slow dawning dread. I imagined her Dr. Brenda Harris, the former vice president, reduced to waiting just like she had made me wait. Reduced to the role of a supplicant. At exactly 10:15, I pressed the intercom button. Cagelo, I said. My voice was calm and even. Is Miss Harris still waiting? Yes, Miss Gray, she is, Cagelo replied. Send her in, I said. The door opened and Brenda Harris walked in. She was not the same woman I had seen in the boardroom a month ago. That woman had been sharp, powerful, and draped in an aura of untouchable authority, this woman. This woman was a ghost. She looked 10 years older. Her expensive suit was rumpled as if she had been wearing it for days. Her hair lacked its usual perfect coif, and her eyes were puffy and defeated. She stood in the doorway of my massive corner office. She was clutching her purse like a shield. Her gaze was darting around the room, taking in the success that should have been hers. She was visibly trembling. Brenda, I said, my voice was perfectly neutral. I did not stand. I did not invite her to sit. I just watched her. Miss Gray, she corrected me. Her voice was weak. Kesha, please, can I sit down? I gestured to one of the chairs opposite my desk. She practically fell into it. She placed a thin folder on my desk. It was her resume. I know this is unconventional, she began while stammering, but I saw that Axiom was hiring, that you were hiring for the analytics division. She was right, I was hiring. I was building my team from the ground up. I know what happened, she rushed on. I know what I said, but I am a good analyst. I was a good analyst before I ever made VP, the numbers. I was always good at the numbers. You know that. I helped train you. I just stared at her. My face was impassive. I will take anything, she pleaded. The last of her pride was crumbling. A junior analyst position. Even an internship. I need the work, Kesha. Stephen, he lost everything, the house, everything. I have nothing. She was begging. Dr. Brenda Harris, the woman who had dismissed me, was begging me. The trash, for a job, for my old job. I let the silence sit in the room for a long, heavy moment. I picked up her resume. I glanced at it, then set it back down. I have reviewed your resume, Brenda, I said. My voice was as cold and clear as the glass wall behind me. It is impressive. You have a doctorate. You were a vice president at a major consulting firm. You are clearly qualified on paper. A desperate flicker of hope lit her eyes. Yes, exactly, she said. I can be a huge asset to you, Kesha. I will work twice as hard as anyone, but I have a question, I interrupted. I was cutting her off just as she had done to me so many times. I leaned forward. I was clasping my hands on the desk. I am building a very specific culture here at Axiom Analytics, I said. We are a front-facing team. We value finesse. We value polish. We need people who can handle the social dynamic. Brenda's face went pale. She knew those words, and I am just looking at your application, I continued, and I am trying to figure out why I would hire you. You are an amazing analyst, I said, while letting the words hang in the air. A real workhorse, brilliant at the grunt work, but you are just not a front woman. It is not your strong suit. It is just not who you are. Kesha, please, she whispered. I stood up. I walked to the window and looked down at the city. This is an elite division, Brenda, I said. We are handling the company's most valuable high-stakes analytics. I cannot bring trash into my company. I heard a small, sharp intake of breath behind me. I turned around. Brenda was staring at me. Her face was a mask of horrified recognition. "I am sorry," I said. My voice was devoid of any sorrow, but as you said, this is a multi-million-dollar operation. We need to present the right image. I walked to my office door and held it open. "K.H. Lowe will validate your parking," I said. "You can find your own way out." Brenda did not say a word. She could not. She just picked up her resume, the folder of her last remaining hope, and walked out of my office, a broken woman. K.H. Lowe met her at the door and guided her out. I watched her go, then turned and walked back to my desk, the president's desk. I sat down in the large leather chair, the one that had belonged to Stephen. It was quiet. The only sound was the distant traffic of Atlanta far below. I looked at the city, my city. It was not about the title or the office or even the money. It was about the respect. It was about finally being seen after a lifetime of being the helper, the grunt work, the trash. I was finally the one in charge. My phone buzzed on the desk. I picked it up. It was a new text message from Bro Malik. I opened it. "Dinner tonight to celebrate, sis. 7 o'clock at our old spot. Mom would be so proud." I stared at the message. I was reading it over and over. Mom would be so proud. And for the first time that day, the cold, hard smile I had been wearing finally melted. I leaned back in my chair. I looked out at the view that was all mine, and I smiled, a real smile, a free smile. This story teaches that the person you dismiss as trash is often the one holding the keys to the kingdom. Kesha's journey is a powerful reminder that your value is not defined by the toxic labels others assign you. While Brenda and Tiffany saw only a workhorse with no polish, Kesha was the strategic architect holding all the real power. True success is not about finesse. It is built on competence, resilience, and knowing your own worth. In the end, those who build their careers by stealing the work of others will inevitably collapse when that foundation walks away. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of transformation and vindication. I threw myself into rebuilding what had once been Orion's analytics division into something far greater. The team I inherited was talented, but they had been beaten down by years of neglect and disrespect under Brenda and Stephen's leadership. They had watched their hard work get stolen. They had seen credit go to people who did not deserve it. They had been treated as invisible cogs in a machine designed to enrich others. Now everything was different. On my first official day as president, I called an all-hands meeting in the main conference room. The same space where I had once sat silently while Brenda dismissed my ideas now belonged to me. The analysts filed in slowly. Their faces were a mixture of curiosity, hope, and lingering skepticism. They had seen leadership changes before. They had heard promises of better days that never materialized. I stood at the front of the room. I was not nervous. For the first time in my professional life, I felt completely certain of my place and my purpose. "Good morning, everyone," I began. My voice was steady and clear. "I know many of you are wondering what this acquisition means for your jobs. I know you are worried about layoffs or restructuring or being absorbed into some faceless corporate machine. Let me be very clear. That is not what this is." I looked around the room, making eye contact with each person. "You are not here because Axiom needed bodies to fill seats," I said. "You are here because you are brilliant. You are here because the work you have been doing, often without recognition or reward, is world-class. I have worked alongside many of you for years. I have seen your late nights. I have seen your innovative solutions. I have seen your dedication even when it was taken for granted. That ends today." There was a shift in the room. People sat up straighter, some leaned forward. "Under my leadership," I continued, "this division will operate on 3 core principles. 1, your work will be credited to you. If you build it, you own it. No one will ever take your analysis and present it as their own. 2, you will be compensated fairly. I have already begun reviewing salaries, and I can tell you that adjustments are coming. Significant ones. 3, you will have a voice. Your ideas will be heard. Your concerns will be addressed. This is not a dictatorship, this is a team. A woman in the back raised her hand tentatively. It was Jennifer, one of the junior analysts who had been with Orion for 3 years. Yes, Jennifer, I said. Is it true that you are the one who built the Axiom proposal? She asked. The one Brenda and Tiffany were supposed to present. It is true, I said. I did not elaborate. I did not need to. The room erupted in murmurs. People were looking at each other. Some were nodding as if pieces of a puzzle were finally falling into place. So you know, Jennifer continued, you know what it is like to do the work and watch someone else take the credit. I know exactly what it is like, I said, which is why it will never happen here, not on my watch. The energy in the room transformed. The skepticism melted away. What replaced it was something I had not seen in this team in years. It was hope. It was excitement. It was the belief that things could actually be different. Over the next 2 weeks, I worked 18-hour days, not because I was being exploited, but because I was building something that mattered. I reviewed every active client contract. I met with each team member individually to understand their strengths, their goals, and their frustrations. I restructured workflows to eliminate the inefficiencies that had been created by Brenda's mismanagement. I brought in new technology and new training programs. Malik was true to his word. Axiom's resources were now at my disposal. When I needed new software, I got it. When I needed to hire additional analysts, I was given the budget. When I proposed a radical new approach to client engagement, Malik did not micromanage or second-guess me. He simply asked, "Do you believe in it?" When I said yes, he replied, "Then make it happen." The transformation was not just operational, it was cultural. The analysts who had once kept their heads down and their ideas to themselves began to speak up. They began to collaborate, they began to innovate. The office, which had once felt like a prison, now felt like a laboratory. Ideas were being tested, boundaries were being pushed, excellence was being celebrated. One afternoon, about 3 weeks into my tenure, I received an unexpected email. It was from a former Orion client, a mid-sized logistics company that had been one of our longest-standing accounts. The subject line read, "Congratulations and concerns." I opened it. The email was from their CEO, a man named David Chen. I had worked with him directly on several projects, though Brenda had always insisted on being the one to present the final results. David's email was warm but pointed. "Kesha," he wrote, "I was thrilled to hear about your promotion. You were always the real talent behind Orion's analytics work. I have to be honest, when I heard about the acquisition and the scandal involving Stephen Shaw, I was concerned. Orion was our partner for 5 years, but if I am being frank, the only reason we stayed was because of the quality of your team's work. Brenda was difficult to work with. She overpromised and underdelivered. She took credit for insights she clearly did not understand. More than once I considered switching to a competitor. Now that you are leading the Atlanta division, I wanted to reach out. We are coming up for contract renewal in 2 months. I would like to discuss not just renewing but significantly expanding our engagement. Are you available for a call this week?" I stared at the email. This was a test. This was my first major opportunity to prove that I could not just manage a team but also retain and grow the business. I replied immediately, "David, thank you for reaching out. I would be honored to discuss an expanded partnership. I have some ideas I think you will find very compelling. Let us schedule a call for Thursday at 2 o'clock. Does that work for you?" His response came within minutes. "Perfect. Looking forward to it." On Thursday at 2 o'clock, I dialed into the call. David Chen's face appeared on the screen. He was smiling. "Kesha," he said, "it is good to see you in your rightful place." "Thank you, David," I replied. "It is good to be here. Let us talk about how we can take your logistics operations to the next level." For the next hour, I walked him through a proposal I had been developing. It was not just an extension of the old Orion services. It was a complete reimagining. I proposed integrating real-time data analytics with predictive modeling to optimize his supply chain. I showed him how we could reduce his operational costs by 15% in the first year alone. I demonstrated the technology. I answered his questions. I did not just sell him on the idea. I made him a partner in it. By the end of the call, David was leaning back in his chair. He was nodding slowly. Kesha, he said, this is exactly what I was hoping for. This is the kind of forward-thinking work I knew your team was capable of but never saw from Brenda. Let us do this. I want to move forward, not just with a renewal but with the expanded engagement you outlined. Send me the contract. I will have my legal team review it, but I can tell you right now this is a yes. I felt a surge of pride and relief. Thank you, David, I said. You will not regret this. I know I will not, he replied. You built the foundation for this years ago, Kesha. I am just glad you finally get to stand on it. When the call ended, I sat back in my chair. I looked around my office at the gleaming glass walls, at the city stretched out below me, at the framed Axiom Analytics logo on the wall. This was real. This was mine. I was not the helper anymore. I was not the engine in the back. I was the architect. I was the leader. I was the president. That evening, I met Malik for dinner at the same jazz bar where we had planned Brenda's downfall a month earlier. He was already seated in the corner booth when I arrived. He stood and hugged me. You look happy, sis, he said. I replied while sliding into the booth. I just closed my first major deal as president. David Chen from Titan Logistics. Not only is he renewing, but he is expanding. It is a 3-year contract worth $4.2 million. Malik raised his glass. To Kesha Gray, he said, president strategist and the woman who turned trash into treasure. I laughed and clinked my glass against his. It feels surreal, I admitted. A month ago, I was being called trash in a boardroom. Today, I closed a multi-million-dollar deal. Tomorrow, I am keynoting a conference on data analytics innovation. It is like I am living someone else's life. You are living your life, Malik said. For the first time, you are living your life. Not Mom's version of it. Not Brenda's version of it. Yours, I nodded. He was right. But there is something I need to ask you, I said. Why did you really do this? I know you said it was because they insulted me. I know you wanted to help me, but you are a businessman, Malik. You do not make decisions based on emotion. You make them based on strategy. So what was the real reason? Malik took a sip of his drink. He was quiet for a moment. You are right, he said finally. I do not make emotional decisions, at least not entirely emotional. The truth is I had been looking at Orion for months. Their analytics division was undervalued. Their client list was solid. Their team was talented, but their leadership was incompetent and corrupt. I knew that if I could acquire the division, strip away the dead weight, and put the right person in charge, it would be a gold mine. So yes, I wanted to help you. I wanted to destroy the people who hurt you, but I also wanted to make a smart business move. You were both the reason and the solution. I smiled. So I was a good investment, I said. You are the best investment I have ever made, Malik replied. In the first month under your leadership, the Atlanta division has increased client retention by 20%. You have brought in 2 new major contracts. You have boosted team morale to the point where productivity is up across the board. Axiom's board is already calling this acquisition a massive win, and it is all because of you. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I blinked them away. Thank you, I said quietly, for seeing me, for believing in me. You did not need me to see you, Malik said. You just needed the space to show everyone else what you have always been. A leader. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. The jazz trio on stage was playing a slow, mournful melody. It was beautiful and bittersweet. Do you ever think about Mom? Malik asked suddenly. All the time, I said. Do you think she would be proud? He asked. I thought about it. I thought about my mother, about the way she had pushed me into the background, about the way she had made me the helper while elevating Malik to the star. I thought about her deathbed apology, about the regret in her eyes. I think she would be complicated about it, I said finally. I think part of her would be proud, but I think another part of her would struggle with the fact that I succeeded by refusing to be what she wanted me to be. I did not stay in my lane, Malik. I did not stay the helper, I became the leader, and I think that would challenge everything she believed about me. Malik nodded slowly. She was wrong about you, he said. She was wrong about both of us. She put so much pressure on me to be the golden child that I did not even realize I was stepping on you to get there. I am sorry for that, Kesha. I forgive you, I said, and I forgive her too. Not because what she did was okay, but because holding on to that anger was only hurting me. I had to let it go so I could move forward. Malik raised his glass again. To moving forward, he said. To moving forward, I echoed. The months that followed were a masterclass in transformation and growth. The Atlanta division of Axiom Analytics became one of the company's most profitable units. Under my leadership, we did not just retain clients. We revolutionized how they thought about data. We did not just meet expectations, we exceeded them. By the 6-month mark, we had grown the team from 23 analysts to 38. We had brought in 12 new major contracts totaling over $18 million in annual revenue. We had been featured in 3 industry publications as a model for innovative analytics practices, and I had been invited to speak at conferences all over the country. But success was not just measured in dollars and headlines. It was measured in the people. Jennifer, the junior analyst who had asked me that question on my first day, was promoted to senior analyst. She was now leading her own projects and mentoring new hires. Marcus, my assistant, had expressed interest in transitioning into an analyst role. I created a training program for him, and within 4 months he was contributing to client projects. The team that had once been demoralized and overlooked was now thriving. They came to work excited, they took risks, they innovated, and they trusted me because I had proven that I would fight for them the way no one had ever fought for me. One afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. I almost sent it to voicemail, but something made me answer. "This is Kesha Gray," I said. "Miss Gray," a woman's voice said. "This is Patricia Monroe. I am the Chief Operating Officer at Titan Dynamics. I was given your name by David Chen. He spoke very highly of you and your work. I was wondering if you might have time to discuss a potential partnership." I sat up straighter. Titan Dynamics was one of the largest logistics and supply chain companies in the country. They were a Fortune 500 company with operations on 4 continents. A partnership with them would be a game changer. I would be very interested, I said. When would you like to talk? How about next week, Patricia said. I will be in Atlanta for a conference. Perhaps we could meet for lunch. Absolutely, I replied. Just send me the details and I will be there. The lunch meeting with Patricia Monroe was everything I had hoped for and more. She was a sharp, no-nonsense woman in her 50s. She had built her career on operational excellence, and she did not suffer fools. Over grilled salmon and sparkling water, she laid out her vision. Titan Dynamics is at a crossroads, she said. We have grown rapidly over the past decade, but our data infrastructure has not kept pace. We are drowning in information but starving for insight. We need a partner who can help us not just organize our data but weaponize it. Turn it into a competitive advantage. I listened carefully. Then I asked the questions that mattered. What are your biggest pain points? Where are you losing money? What keeps you up at night? Patricia answered each question with brutal honesty. By the end of the lunch, I had a clear picture of what Titan Dynamics needed, and I knew exactly how to deliver it. I can help you, I said, but I am not going to give you a generic pitch. Give me 2 weeks. Let me do a preliminary assessment of your operations. I will come back to you with a customized proposal. No cost, no obligation. If you like what you see, we move forward. If you do not, we part as friends. Patricia looked at me for a long moment. Then she smiled. You are exactly what David said you were, she said. All right, Miss Gray, you have your 2 weeks. Do not waste them. I did not waste them. I assembled a team of my best analysts. We worked around the clock studying Titan Dynamics. We analyzed their supply chain data. We identified inefficiencies. We mapped out solutions. 2 weeks later, I walked into Patricia Monroe's office with a 50-page proposal. It was comprehensive, it was bold, and it was exactly what she needed. Patricia read through the entire proposal in silence. I sat across from her. My heart was pounding, but my face was calm. Finally, she looked up. "This is brilliant," she said. "How soon can you start?" "We can start immediately," I replied. Patricia extended her hand. "Welcome to the Titan Dynamics family, Miss Gray," she said. "This is a 3-year contract? $12 million annually." I shook her hand. "Welcome to the Axiom Analytics family," I replied. When I left Patricia's office, I called Malik immediately. "I just closed Titan Dynamics," I said. $36 million over 3 years. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Malik started laughing. It was a deep, joyful sound. "Kesha," he said, "you are unbelievable. Do you know what this means? It means the Atlanta division just became Axiom's highest revenue-generating unit outside of headquarters. It means you just proved that you are not just a great analyst. You are a great CEO." I felt a swell of pride, but I also felt something else. I felt peace. For the first time in my life, I was not chasing validation. I was not trying to prove myself to people who would never see me. I was simply doing the work I loved with people who respected me, and that was enough. That evening, I sat in my office long after everyone else had gone home. The city lights twinkled below me. The office was quiet except for the hum of the air conditioning. I thought about the journey that had brought me here. I thought about the little girl who had soldered circuit boards for her brother's robotics project. I thought about the young woman who had moved 2 states away trying to escape the role of helper. I thought about the analyst who had been called trash in a boardroom. And I thought about the president who had turned that insult into an empire. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Malik. "Mom would be proud." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back a reply. "Maybe, but I am proud of me, and that is what matters." The next morning I arrived at the office early. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden light over the Atlanta skyline. I made myself a cup of coffee and stood by the window. K.H. Lowe arrived a few minutes later. "Good morning, Miss Gray," she said. "Good morning, K.H. Lowe," I replied. "What do we have on the schedule today?" "You have a team meeting at 9, she said. "A call with the Titan Dynamics implementation team at 11. "Lunch with a potential new hire at 1. "And a video interview with Analytics Today magazine at 3. "Busy day," I said, "just the way I like it." As the office began to fill with people, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. This was my team. This was my company. This was my success. No one had handed it to me. No one had opened doors for me out of pity or obligation. I had earned every single bit of it. At 9 o'clock, I walked into the conference room for the team meeting. 38 faces looked back at me. Some were familiar, some were new, but all of them were here because they wanted to be. All of them were here because they believed in what we were building. "Good morning, everyone," I said. "Let us talk about what we are going to accomplish this week." As the meeting progressed, I realized something. I was no longer angry. I was no longer bitter. I had spent so much of my life carrying the weight of being underestimated, of being dismissed, of being called trash, but I had finally put that weight down. Brenda and Tiffany and Stephen were not villains in my story anymore. They were just footnotes. Cautionary tales about what happens when you mistake cruelty for leadership and entitlement for competence. They had tried to break me. Instead, they had freed me. They had pushed me out of a cage I did not even realize I was in, and now I was soaring. After the meeting, I returned to my office. I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. There was an email from a young woman named Kesha. She was a recent college graduate. She had applied for an entry-level analyst position. Her resume was impressive, but what caught my attention was her cover letter. "Miss Gray," she wrote, "I have followed your career for the past year. I read about how you built the Axiom Analytics Atlanta division from the ground up. I read about how you turned a failing team into an industry leader. But what inspired me most was learning that you did it after being told you were not good enough. I am a black woman. I am the first person in my family to graduate from college. I have been told my entire life that I am not polished enough, not smooth enough, not the right fit. But when I read about you, I realized that maybe I do not need to be those things. Maybe I just need to be excellent. I would be honored to learn from you. I stared at the email. I read it 3 times, then I forwarded it to Kesha with a note. Schedule an interview with Kesha for this week. I want to meet her. That afternoon during my video interview with Analytics Today magazine, the interviewer asked me a question I had been asked a dozen times before. Miss Gray, she said you have had a meteoric rise over the past year. What advice would you give to young professionals who are struggling to be seen and valued in their workplaces? I thought carefully before answering. My advice is this, I said. Do not wait for permission to be great. Do not wait for someone to see your value and validate it. Build something so undeniable that they have no choice but to see it. And if they still do not see it, find people who will. Surround yourself with people who recognize excellence, who reward hard work, who treat you with respect. Life is too short to spend it trying to convince small-minded people that you matter, the interviewer nodded. That is powerful, she said. One last question. Do you ever think about the people who underestimated you? Do you ever wonder what they think now? I smiled. Not anymore, I said. I used to. I used to imagine running into them. I used to imagine them seeing my success and feeling regret, but the truth is I do not need that. I do not need their regret or their apology or their validation. I have already moved on. They are still stuck in the past. I am building the future. When the interview ended, I leaned back in my chair. I felt lighter than I had in years. That evening, I left the office at a reasonable hour. I drove home through the city. I stopped at a small park near my apartment. I sat on a bench and watched the sunset. For the first time in a long time, I was not thinking about work. I was not thinking about deals or contracts or quarterly projections. I was just being. The sky turned from blue to orange to pink to purple. It was beautiful. My phone buzzed. It was another text from Malik. Dinner this weekend. Bring your appetite. I am making mom's jollof rice, or at least trying to. I laughed and typed back. I will be there. Do not burn the kitchen down. As I sat there watching the sky, I thought about everything I had been through. The pain, the humiliation, the anger, the fear, and I realized that I would not change any of it. Every single moment had led me here, to this bench, to this sunset, to this life. I was no longer the helper. I was no longer the trash. I was Kesha Gray, president of Axiom Analytics Atlanta Division. Leader, strategist, architect of my own destiny, and I was finally free. The sun dipped below the horizon, the sky turned dark, the stars began to appear. I stood up, I took a deep breath, and I walked toward home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new battles to fight, and new victories to claim. But tonight I was at peace. Tonight I was enough, and that was everything. Outro, this story is not just about revenge, it is about truth, pain, and rising stronger than before. If this hit your heart, then you know what to do. Like the video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more real stories that burn like fire. Until next time, stay sharp, stay loud, stay rebel.